Hi, my name is Caroline and welcome to my channel. I'm a counsellor. My full posh title is Humanistic Integrative Counsellor or Therapist, and I'm here today to do the third series, the third step in a series of videos about how to recover from heartbreak. So this is with regards to romantic relationships specifically. So the examples I'm going to use will relate primarily to romantic relationships. And as I said in the previous two videos, I won't recap too much, but just to say that I'm going to be following the Kubler Ross model of grief and loss recovery as a framework to look at how we can recover from heartbreak after the breakdown of a romantic relationship. It can also, the phases can also start actually before the relationship has even broken up. So it can be in kind of the dying stages of the relationship. You may actually start some of these processes a bit earlier actually. I probably could have mentioned that in previous videos. So yeah, just to kind of notice that. So the first two stages, first of all, there's denial, so a sense of just not accepting what's happened, which is usually accompanied by a feeling of numbness, with other breakthrough emotions, but primarily numbness. And the second stage is anger. The third stage is bargaining. And as I've said previously, these stages are not linear. You can dip in and out. You can get to sort of bargaining and then plop back into denial. You can skip anger altogether and go from denial straight into bargaining in any one day, week, hour even. You can drop in and out of the different stages. So this is more of a conceptualization of the loss process, and I've structured the videos like that to give it to hopefully help you to make sense of it. And for each step I'm sort of going to give some pointers or some ideas or some real life examples of, you know, hopefully things you can do, or just sort of talking it through to hopefully help you to understand what you're feeling a bit better. And just pointers from my own experience. I think I talked in the first video about my own personal experience of heartbreak, recovering from heartbreak. So yeah, so moving into, I've got some notes here, so if I keep looking over here, it's because I don't want to forget anything. But I'm going to try not to read it because I prefer to sort of free flow really. So yeah, looking at the bargaining side of the loss of a relationship. And also just to say, sorry to keep repeating myself, you can be experiencing all of these stages and feelings even if you are the person that's ended the relationship. This is not just about the person who was broken up from. So yeah, just to put that down as a reminder. So the bargaining stage, this is where we it's another coping strategy that our clever brains use, or our nervous systems use, a bit of both really, to protect us from the reality of what's actually going on, because it is so painful for us if we're talking about a significant romantic relationship. And a significant romantic relationship doesn't even have to be a necessarily long relationship, but just a relationship that feels important to you for whatever reason that might be. And because it's really hard for us to accept what's happened, even if we're the ones who've done the breaking up, sometimes we can have felt as though we didn't have any other choice, or even if we did have another choice, it may not be that we actually wanted to end it, but it just felt like, you know, if the other person isn't going to change, or if I can't see a happy ever after, you may feel as though the breaking up is the best solution. But there will also be stages within that breakup where, even if it's you that's doing the breakup, you may feel like, oh, I haven't made the right decision. And so the bargaining stage is this stage we go through where there's lots of ruminating, lots of intrusive thoughts, lots of what ifs and if only. And so it comes about because we're feeling so overwhelmed and we feel really hopeless and helpless, um, particularly, of course, if you're the person who has been left. Um, and so this is an attempt at getting some kind of control over the situation. So we might sort of say, we might try to negotiate with ourselves. Some people also will appeal to a higher power. So if you are interested in spirituality or organized religion, you know, you might find yourself sort of appealing to um, you know, various higher powers, whoever you identify with. Um, and, you know, things like, you know, if I, so, you know, you might say to yourself, oh, if I was a better XYZ, if I was a better Christian, then this would never have happened. Or, you know, if I'm really good, and if I, you know, if I do amazing like voluntary work for the next year, then maybe my ex will see what a wonderful person I am and they will um, take me back. So we're kind of we're either negotiating with ourselves by saying, you know, oh, if I'd been better in bed, then they would have stayed, or if I was thinner, if I had bigger boobs, if my hair was nicer, if I had a better job, if I earned more money, then they would have stayed. And this process is a process which really really engages our brain. We can really kind of lose ourselves into a rabbit hole of kind of like cycling thoughts, and it can end up being really really distressing actually, if we just get caught in this cycle of what if, what if, what if. um, and accompanying those thoughts, those ruminating intrusive thoughts, we might have feelings of guilt around the relationship ending. We might have feelings of shame around the relationship ending. We might feel we might have feelings of fear sort of sneaking in there. So we may be sort of feeling fearful of the future. We might be feeling anxious, which is a sort of a lighter way of saying fear. Um, we might do a lot of overthinking, worrying. We might be up all night, kind of trying to sort of put two and two together. In particular, if the relationship has come to an end because your ex was unfaithful to you, or if there was anything a little bit perhaps shady, or if there was any kind of lying or manipulation involved in any way, then what we can end up doing is getting really caught into the detail and trying to work it all out. Um, Especially around infidelity, our brains can just go into overdrive trying to figure out, you know, either who it was, you know, when it started. And especially if there's been a lot of lying, you know, you might be questioning, like, you know, when they said they were there, were they actually there, or were they with this other person? you know, you may start looking back over old photos of you together, trying to work out, you know, the signs of when did this extramarital affair start, for example, or, you know, I thought we were really happy then, but actually now I know that you were having an affair. This has really tarnished my memory of this event. um, you might you might catch yourself sort of being quite judgmental of yourself, and really kind of punishing yourself in terms of, you know, putting yourself down. Like, you might find yourself criticizing yourself or judging yourself, or comparing yourself to other people. Again, especially if there is any kind of infidelity involved, you may then find yourself kind of comparing your looks. If you know who they have had the affair with, you might end up being caught down this rabbit hole of, oh, well, you know, XYZ person is better looking than me, or, you know, they must have been better at XYZ, richer, funnier, slimmer, prettier. And these can be really, really painful thoughts to have. Um, and what we're actually trying to do, in a funny way, is we're attempting to avoid actually sitting in the really painful reality that the relationship is over. Um, I mean, this is a process, particularly this stuff around infidelity. This is a process that you will go through, most likely, even if at the end of it the relationship isn't over. There is a similar process that you'll go through if you have discovered your partner, or if your partner discloses that they've been having an affair. You will go through all these phases. Even if you decide to stay with them, or whatever the outcome, there will still be this process. Um, so that might be helpful for you if you are also trying to recover from an affair. Again, that's a whole load of videos that, you know, maybe one day I will film around sort of affair recovery. So we can understand these ruminations also in a sense that, even though that it's really painful to have these thoughts, and just really distracting, it can feel like you can, you know, waste hours of your life trying to, you know, figure this all out. What your brain is actually trying to do for you is keep you away from the reality, the deeply painful feelings, you know, the sadness, the loss, the fear, that feeling of being abandoned, being rejected by the person that, let's say, you love the most. So even though these thoughts are really hard to sit with and work through, actually that your brain is kind of, in a funny old way, trying to distract you from feeling the feelings, because those feelings, you know, are pretty grim. And there can be other elements to this, that you can find yourself sort of trying to predict the future, like, you know, like I was saying earlier, if I do X, Y, and Z, then maybe he, she, they will reconsider and come back to me, you know. And a classic example of this is the revenge body, which is sort of quite I was going to say ubiquitous behaviour, but I mean, it's probably not ubiquitous, but a lot of people get caught into that behaviour cycle of oh, well, they must have split up with me because I'm not thin enough. Therefore, if I sign up to a gym, if I go on this really intensive diet, if I sign up to couch to 5k, then I'll lose weight, and then I'm going to look amazing, and then they're going to regret it. And that sort of idea of, there must be something I can do, there must be something in my control that I can change. And if I can change, if I can figure out what that something is, then I can change it, then I can do something about it, and then I will be, they will return. And then therefore that means I am lovable after all. And it's them that have made the big mistake, and then I won't be rejected. Um, because this idea of rejection is linked in with when we were hunter-gatherers, and we would need to be kept in the tribe in order to physically survive any hardship. We had to be in the tribe. And so if we are rejected by someone else, and particularly our closest person, then there is a chance that, back then, that we would have potentially not survived physically. And so we have this very inbuilt inner drive to stay in a partnership, which can partly explain why, some people stay in relationships long after they should have left them. And so the pain of being rejected by another or abandoned by another isn't just about, oh, he or she doesn't love me anymore. It's also about this real inbuilt kind of primitive drive for survival, and to keep ourselves safe, because our primitive brains are actually not that much different from what they were like when we were hunter-gatherers. So we have this real basic need for attachment. So yeah, the revenge body is a classic example of the bargaining kind of phase of the relationship breakdown. Also, I kind of feel as though when we go through these sort of ways of punishing ourselves, so for example, if we end up spending too much time looking through their social media pages, if we try to figure out if they might be messaging someone else, if we can see that they're online, and then, so for example, there are some social media pages whereby you can see, I'm thinking of Facebook Messenger, you can see if, but the timing is actually wrong on Facebook Messenger. But it can look as though, for example, if your ex is on Messenger and then someone else, a mutual friend, is on Messenger at the same time, there may be this kind of thought process for you, this bargaining. Oh, is he or she talking to that other person? Oh, if only I looked like that other person, or if only I was as funny as that other person, slash slim slash rich, then everything would have been okay. So yeah, and that's sort of, I'm not going to call it stalking, because maybe the more lurking behavior on social media, you may be visiting their page, and absolutely no, I'm not throwing any sort of shade on that, and I actually think it is quite a healthy part of the loss process. Is we need to kind of, we do need to spend time sort of, it's part of that process of letting that other person go. But if you're finding yourself in the, you really are spending huge amounts of your time checking on them, and or rereading old messages, or you know I don't know, perhaps I have heard stories of people signing up to dating apps in order to see whether their ex is on a dating app, for example. Um, and so this is all a way for us to try to hold on to some kind of hope for the relationship to come back together. And because it can feel really hard to sit in a place of hopelessness, sit in a place of actually, this is really sad. I've not only lost my person, I've lost all of our dreams together for our future. There may be other ripples of what else you've lost, which we'll probably talk about later. Sort of, this idea of, well, it's not just our relationship, it's our dreams, it's our shared friendships, it's our home, it's our pets, it's our possessions, it's our financial security, and the ripples, go wider and wider and wider. And generally speaking, this is very I'm very much stereotyping, but generally as the time goes on, we start off grieving the loss of the relationship and the other person, and then as it goes on and on and on and on, the losses kind of get wider and wider and wider. And particularly if there are children involved or stepchildren, that can make things extremely complicated and a lot harder to come to terms with. You may not just be grieving them, you may be grieving, if you're in a blended family, it may be that you now can't have contact, for example, with stepchildren, and that can make the loss feel even harder. So what can we do to help ourselves through this phase? So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say like don't lurk on their social media, because I think it's important. It is an important part, and I wouldn't ever say don't, but maybe just perhaps become aware of how much time you're spending doing that lurking thing or rereading old messages. And maybe if you can perhaps notice whether, does this feel helpful to you in terms of being able to release them, or does this feel as though you're kind of punishing yourself somehow by looking back and wishing you could rewrite history? So I think that's a balance. I think there is a balance to be had there. As always, try to find people in your close circle that you trust to talk about this stuff with. But I would also just be careful about what advice you take from friends, because everyone's got an opinion when a relationship breaks down, and this might be the stage, sort of moving into the later stages, is when friends will start to say, oh well, I never really liked them anyway, or oh, you're so much better off without them, or you could do so much better, because once the initial shock is starting to wear off, it's almost like friends feel like, oh well, now it's okay for me to tell you exactly what I thought of your ex, or exactly what I think you should be doing next. And actually that can feel quite difficult to sit in that space, because ideally we just want sort of a space of non-judgmentalism, unless you want to kind of join in with the, oh yeah, weren't they an absolute a-hole, and again that might be cathartic for you, but yeah, tricky for your friends to manage as well, because they'll be feeling protective of you, hopefully. So yeah, on a very practical level, the nervous system techniques I've shared before. So just really reminding yourself that you're safe, that you are in the present, you're not still in that traumatic initial breakup time. So there's the butterfly hug, there's the vagus nerve massage, which I talked about in the last video. I probably need to do a separate standalone video for that. And there's the physiological sigh breathwork technique, and there are a whole load of different breathwork techniques that can really help to sort of bring you back down into your body, rather than you'll be very much in your head. And in this stage in particular, you'll be like, you know, in inverted commas, going a little bit bonkers with all of the what ifs and, you know, if onlys. Um, I should have brought my book in actually. There's a really good helpful technique which is part of the Dialectical Behaviour Therapy set of tools. This was created by a lady called Marsha Linehan. I think it was in the 80s or in the 90s. Originally it was designed for people who experience emotional dysregulation, extreme emotional dysregulation, but actually I find it incredibly helpful to for most people, to be honest. It's a really good sort of way of checking off, you know, keeping quite a nice framework around, you know, keeping yourself mentally sort of stable, I think is probably the best word for it. And within this framework is a concept called radical acceptance. And this is quite a tricky idea. So it's a fine line. So depending on how you are feeling in any particular moment, you may not be able to do too much of this, because like I say, these stages are all ways that your brain is using to help you to soften the pain of the relationship breakdown. But if you do feel able to, the idea of radical acceptance is sitting in that space of, this has happened, there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to sit in the space of, this really hurts, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel scared, I feel lost, I feel hopeless, I feel betrayed, I feel, you know, and all of those emotions that you feel. And, you know, maybe trying to write some of those down in order to sort of get them out of your body and your head, getting them out and down onto paper. I'll try and remember to link the book below. So it's called, there's a journal you can, well, it's not called a journal, it's a workbook, and actually you don't have to do much writing, because I know I'm always banging on about writing, but this is more of a tick list. Maybe I'll add it into the next video. Actually, it's a tick list, and I've found it particularly helpful because, you know, it's not like you have to write reams and reams. You can just tick off your list, and it's just a prompt, a reminder, you know, about self-care, it's all about sort of helping you in a physical way, helping you in a mental way, helping you in an emotional way. It's around boundaries. It's just a reminder to, you know, keep yourself kind of on the straight and narrow, especially at a time when everything might feel like it's up in the air. But in particular, this idea of radical acceptance is extremely powerful whilst we're in this bargaining phase, in particular, when we're sort of all over the place. But, you know, just bringing it back down and just reminding ourselves that just because this person has broke up with me, or just because, you know, I've broken up with this person and, you know, and now they never ever want to speak to me ever again, you know, you are okay. You are still okay as a person, and you do have power, you do have autonomy, you do have sovereignty, you have got choices. And I think that's one of the most helpful things to remember, is that you do have choices. And this radical acceptance is just inviting you to step into the space of, yes, this has happened, but I will be okay, and there's nothing much I can do about it right now. Like I say, you have to judge it for yourself around how long you can sit in that space. And it might just be, I can only sit in that space for a minute, a couple of minutes, before I have to go back and, lurk in social media, and that's okay. But just to create this balance where it's not all or nothing. It's not like, oh, I'm either lurking 24/7, or I'm being, super healthy and not thinking about him or her at all. There's a middle path, and we can, and the healing journey is about finding the middle path through these, really difficult polarities of, emotions at either end of the scale. Yeah, so I think that's everything I wanted to say about bargaining. Hopefully that is helpful. If you have got any examples, actually, that would be really useful. If you've got any examples of, if you've been through heartbreak, and if there was any kind of bargaining that you did with yourself, or did with a higher power, or what helped you get through that, and did you throw yourself into getting your revenge body, or trying to get a new career, or this can also be a tricky time for, potentially feeling like, I'm going to just throw myself into a whole new relationship, as a way of, and then maybe they'll see me, and then maybe they will be jealous, and then maybe they will want me back. So yeah, just to sort of be aware that those can be the pitfalls of this stage of recovering from heartbreak. So thanks for watching, and yeah, if you fancy liking or subscribing to my channel, that would be fabulous. If not, that's also fine, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.